rock and roll.
Okay, guy in the back, right there.
What's the record coming out?
It's going to come out in March, I think. I think the idea is that what we really want to do is we want to show the movie to as many people as we can, and then one of the great things, like what we're doing tonight, we're doing a gig tonight with a lot of musicians from Scandinavia. The idea is really cool, is, to me, taking it from the studio, telling the story of the studio in a movie, and then in the film showing the performances, but then taking the performances out of the film and doing it in front of people. It just kind of furthers the idea of that kind of connection to the musician and the music. And so we'll do that for a while, and then the record will probably come out in March.
Anybody else? Sure. The lady in the back there.
Bravo,
Yes, you.
Bravo, Dave. Entertaining and informative.
Thank you very much.
Where do you get the tape, first of all, announced it to record? And you killed it on Saturday Night Live, Paul. And is Paul here?
No, Paul's not here.
Question is, where does Dave killed it on Saturday Night Live, and where does he get the tape to record this stuff?
You can still buy tape. A lot of the bigger companies went out of business, but there's these boutique companies that make recording tape. And a funny story, it's a little different than it used to be. One of the things that's the hardest to find is that blue splicing tape that you sort of put on your edits, to edit a piece of tape together. And when we were making the Foo Fighters records in my garage a couple of years ago, we had this one reel of that blue splicing tape. And we were doing the record in my house, and right on the other side of the control room door is my playroom where my kids play. And so the new splicing tape they make sucks. It just doesn't fucking work. It's terrible. So Butch Vig calls back to his studio and he says, I think I have one reel of that stuff in the 80s. The good stuff is in the attic. They found one reel, shipped it to my house, and we were making the record. And one day my daughter opens up the control room door and we look, and the entire playroom is like a spider web with like one reel of so there's no more editing. But it's hard to find. I mean, one of the when you talk about like analog versus digital, it's such a big discussion. It's not really. I think there's a big misconception that the movie is about analog versus digital, when really it's part of the conversation, but it's not really the heart of the movie. The heart of the movie is really the human beings and what happens when they make music together. You can capture that with a computer. You can capture that with tape. You just have to sort of, you kind of have to respect it. Computers don't kill bands. It's the producers that usually do.
Yeah, the ball gentleman back there.
Oh, God. Sorry.
Hey, I'm curious if this is it. If this is just a one-time movie for you, or if you continue to...
I don't know. The first Foo Fighters record I just did for fun.
Right.
And that was almost 20 years ago. So we would always make Foo Fighters records like, okay, let's make one more. It's got to be good because it'll probably be our last. Let's make one more. And every time we made one, we thought it was our last. And this was a very, very special occasion. This project was kind of. I can't imagine ever doing anything else like it because of the people involved and because I was so close to the meaning of the movie. So, I couldn't make a fucking movie about Whole Foods, So Sound City, it's a huge part of my life. And, if there was something else that was as important to me as Sound City, then I would probably consider it.
Where is Studio 606, and is it for private use only, or are you going to let other bands use the studio?
The question is, where is Studio 606, and is it for private use only, or is Dave going to let other bands use it?
606 is not far from where Sound City is or was. It's in the valley, San Fernando Valley, and it's the place that we built years ago to make Foo Fighters records. And there's tons of bands that made records. Stone Sour's made records there, Motorhead's made records there. It's a commercial studio, but it's also like our own personal little clubhouse. It's where we go out with our wives, and music, and so if a band's gonna come and make records there, it's like just a big bucket
The guy with the glasses back there, you had your hand up first.
I was curious from a filmmaking standpoint, when you look at analog versus digital, did you go
Yeah, you know, we've used a little bit of film here and there, but you know, I've been asked that question a lot because when you talk about analog versus digital, people are like, well, did you use 35mm? I mean, as a film, to be honest, it's funny because the subject of the movie, when you start talking about leveling the playing field and how digital technology has made everyone a photographer or a fucking movie editor or a fucking musician, it's kind of the same with, I mean, I made a movie. It's shocking, really. Like, next I'll be like, I'll be flying your plane through the But really, that it wasn't really a concern to us. I mean, obviously, like the technology that's available to filmmakers now. I mean, I don't understand what I'm talking about right now.
Hey, you played with Stevie and Paul and people you hadn't played with much before, and people like Chris Beck you hadn't played with in a while.
Yeah.
How was that process, and what did you learn from that?
The question was, Dave, we saw a lot of people that Dave played with before, there were people he hadn't played with until this experience, and what was that like?
Well, you know, it's funny when you play with people that you haven't played with for a long time, like jamming with Chris Novoselic or playing with you know, old friends. It's kind of, you know, it's like getting back together with old friends. And the great thing about being a musician is that everybody does it differently. So everybody has personality in their playing, and your personality as people is almost the same as your personality as musicians. So when you jam with someone that you've jammed with before and you make really great music with, it's like that. You know? But then, you know, if you're in the room with Stevie Nicks, or you're in the room with John Fogerty, or you're in the room with Paul McCartney, it's, you know, it can get a little scary, you know? Because you see them as these legends and as these heroes, but then you eventually realize, like, oh wow, we're jamming and we're making music, and you ease into it. But you know, I'm a fan. You know, I'm just as awestruck of these people as anybody. And so when I meet them for the first time, I just try to keep them cool, and you know, then you become friends, and it's just like playing with friends.
I love that moment. And again, the booth says, yeah, we're going to tell all of them what the fuck to do. Yes. You. Yeah. Yes.
So, when you were realizing that you want to contact all of these amazing musicians and you really want to play with them, how do you go about starting that conversation and calling people like Rick Springfield?
Did you all hear that question? It was when Dave got the idea that he wanted to contact all these amazing musicians. How does he go about contacting them? And
to be honest, it was. I mean, I would say half of them I've been drunk with before. but for the people that I've never met, I would send an email and say, "Hi, my name's Dave, and we have something in common. We both made records at Sound City, and Sound City's closing, and I bought the board, and I'd like to tell the story of the board, and you're a huge part of the story. Would you like to be in the movie?" And I swear to God, every single person said, "Sure," because of what Sound City meant to all of us, or represented. You know, it was easy, and all the interviews were easy because they weren't really interviews. I was just talking to my heroes about music, which is
cool. So we've got time for 2 more questions, but I'm gonna. Do you mind taking a photo with me before? my brother Jerry's a shit. So
yeah, that's good.
Well, that's funny.
Oh, we have a photographer.
Digital.
Okay, cool. All right, so 2 questions time. Sure, yes, you.
I really love all the celebrity stuff, but I really like the employees of the studio.
Oh yeah.
I was wondering if any of the people are here.
Absolutely. Where's Dave? Rascal Linux, where you at? Where's Sound City was that it really was like an insider place. The people that went there, it wasn't like a big fancy commercial studio. that was, you know, where the parking lot was full of Lamborghinis and shit. It was like, it was a shit hole, you know? But it was, the people that worked there, we all had something in common, and it was almost like a little, it was a scene, it was like a club, and the people that went there to record there always went back, and even if you weren't recording there, you'd go back for barbecues and just to hang out with people, and it was really like a family. So, all of those stories were really important, I think, to the Sound City movie, because it makes it real, you know. A place like that, what people fail to understand or realize is that those studios and those people and those experiences, they're responsible for those records that changed the world, or changed your life, or, you know, the song that you heard when you got your first hickey in the back of the Mustang, or whatever. That song was made at a place like Sound City, where Paula was painting the walls and Nick was scrubbing the toilets and whatever. Like that's one of the great things about music and rock and roll is it might seem like smokescreen illusion or whatever, when really it's just, you know, dorks like me who drop that ice going, I play rock, you know.
Okay, so we're going to let Dave pick the last question, but before we do, management has asked me to ask you all to please stay in your seats and don't bombard the poor gentleman here.
Oh yeah, what pictures and shit?
Yeah.
Last question, let's see. I'm going to go way up in the back to go with the glasses so I can see you.
Okay.
But I can't hear you.
Gotta speak loudly, please.
I'm deaf too.
Who are some up-and-coming musicians that have captured the serendipity that you feel is so important in music?
Can we repeat that question? Did you hear it?
Something about serendipity.
Up-and-coming musicians who've captured the serendipity that we experienced with this film?
You know, one of the great things about the message of Sound City is that all hope is not lost. You know, rock and roll will never die. There's another generation of kids that will do it, and there's tons of them. They're out there. There's bands that, you know, when you look popular, like really popular bands right now. If you look at someone like the Black Keys, thank God for the Black Keys. It's so cool because they're raw and they're fucking cool and their songs are catchy and they make you want to dance or feel alive. And that's what it's all about. And you look at it and you're like, oh, I could have a beer at a gas station with that guy. It'd be kind of fun. And so it will never end. When I look at my 6-year-old daughter Violet, and she sits in her room with her Beatles records, or with her turntable, which I show her how to do, and she'll like, you know, I show her how to do it, I leave the room, I come back, all the records are on the floor, and she's like dancing to get back by herself, and it just proves that it's like, it's still possible, it's still alive. So it was one of the big, that was part of my inspiration or my intention, was to make sure that that happens again and again. So they're out there. They just have to write good songs, you know.
Thank you all for coming out and giving up the Dave Grohl. Inspiring the world. Thank you.